My job experience.
This is a horrifying path that almost everybody will have to eventually face in their life, whether we like it or not. And most of the time, we don't. But everyone has to get their bread somehow. So we just gotta suck it up and pray that we win the lottery or our parlay hits one day. Because let's be for real, nobody want a job. Like, unless you got real aspirations for a certain type of work, I think most of us, if given a magical opportunity to get paid however much you get paid now and not work that job again, we would take it. Because most of us.
Yeah, I think a bigger problem, though, is that all of the good jobs that people do want are either far and few between where they're all full, or they pay fucking nothing. Like, a lot, like, dude, working at an animal shelter. Hard work makes you feel like you're doing something good. Most people volunteering, if you are working, you're not getting paid much, right? Like those types of things where you're like, hey, I enjoy this, but you're getting what? Fucking minimum wage, or you're volunteering your time. Like anything where you're like, oh, I feel like I'm doing something. Like, yeah, nobody's going to want to work a fucking 9 to 5 flipping burgers at a McDonald's.
Us see jobs as a way to get by in life and try to make ends meet. There's no room for you to pursue passions in this economy. You better second guess that art degree and major in business so you can be an executive marketing promoter for $1 billion company. But I digress. I'm just saying, I doubt that is most people's passions to work at a 9 to 5 at a warehouse lifting boxes. I don't
know. Do you think there's some people that genuinely enjoy working their 9 to 5? I think it depends on the career. I enjoy streaming. I also have a great job, right? So and it's not a 9 to 5. I pick my own hours. So, like, what's a job that you think people do enjoy that's a 9 to 5? No union work. I don't think anything carpentry, plumbing, electrician, unions. I don't think anybody doing that enjoys it. I don't think they hate it, but it's like they're doing it for the money. Maybe teachers. I think teachers enjoy it. Welding. I think there might be welders that enjoy welding or like restoration work if they're really into it. Working at zoos. Yeah. I think zookeepers like their job. I would say zookeepers, or if you work in an aquarium. But those are like, far and few between jobs. That's what I was talking about. Doctors don't enjoy their job. Buddy, the majority of doctors are going in it for the money. I think there's a few doctors that enjoy saving and helping people. I don't think they like the activity of going to work and having to be there for 10 hours a day. Like nurses, I know EMTs. They like helping people. They don't like their job, You could still be like, oh, I enjoy the benefit I give to people, but I'm not enjoying the active, like, having to wake up at 5 a.m. to go on a call.
Mean any disrespect, but am I wrong? Plus, it's fun being unemployed. As long as you got a roof over your head and don't need to worry about bills, most likely because you still live with your parents, then why would you want a job? That sounds like it's taking away your time from being grandmaster on Rivals and watching reels. Nah, that's too much. But eventually, you want to get your own stuff, young boy tickets.
I think the issue is if you get caught up on, hey, I don't want to have to work until I'm 65, so I'm going to like live with my parents right now, but then you don't get a job, then you're forcing yourself to work till 65. Because if you don't, like, money compounds over time. You gain interest. If you save money, that money will accrue more money over time, especially if you invest it correctly. Not financial advice. But if you're like, unemployed until you're 28 years old, you're already, 8 years, 9 years behind everybody else. So you're already setting yourself off to a rough patch there. And obviously this is coming from a fucking Twitch streamer, so take everything I say with a fucking grain of salt. But if you don't start working, like, the biggest thing that upsets me is, and I understand I did social media in college. I think I had to balance a lot because I got a fucking bachelor's degree while I was streaming 100 hours a month and doing all this other stuff. Obviously, there are people that had it way worse, but I was still doing work, right? Even if my job is fun. But I don't understand people that go through college and get their first job at 24. If that's you, I'm not making fun of you. I just don't understand people not having a job in high school is one thing. I don't think that's bad, right? Like, if you want a job in high school, if you don't, you want to focus on sports or whatever, your AP classes, that's fine. But, like, if you're getting through high school and college, and maybe your parents are paying for shit, and like, yeah, you're able to coast through it. That's fine. But now, like, you're probably going to hate your job because you're not, like, your first job experience is a real 9 to 5. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if you were able to work at like 7-Eleven or a 9 to 5 at Wendy's, McDonald's, Walmart, waitressing, and then you get into a real job at 24, 23, you're going to be more prepared and ready, and you understand the expectations versus, hey, I'm fucking mid-20s, never worked a day in my life, first time fucking clocking in.
It ain't free. Or life really hits you in the face and now you actually have bills. So eventually we all have to get
I like being a kid. Yeah, cherish that time, but also recognize the benefits of not being a kid and that you can't be a kid forever. You're not going to be 15 forever. You're not going to be 16 forever. At some point, you're going to have to get a job. You're going to have to work a 9 to 5. You're going to have to, maybe not a 9 to 5, but you're going to have to make money somehow to live, right? You can't have everything provided for you your whole life. Quit being depressing. I don't think it's depressing. I think it's something that you should just casually think about. I think a lot of you guys stress about it too much, and I think there is a lot of pressure put on you guys more than previous generations. I think Gen Z has a lot of expectations, especially how today's economy is, where it's like, hey, if you don't get a college degree, you're fucked. Hey, if you don't do this and you don't do that and you don't get a good GPA and you don't do academics and work a job at the same time, you're not going to be able to succeed in life because you're going to be indebted to student loans for the rest of your life. You're going to work until you're 75 and then you're going to die having no paid time off, and you're going to visit one country the entire length of your life. Like, that's stressful. But, like, also recognize, hey, just plan shit slowly. Don't not think about it, but don't force yourself to think about it so much that it stresses you out. Plan time out to be like, hey, let me schedule this. Let me have a few plans. Let me have a few backup plans so then you could go into that knowing what you're doing. Even if you feel like you're doing something good, if you're getting mentally taxed from it, that is the downside of your job. Even if you're getting good money and you feel like you're doing good, it is mentally taxing. Like surgeons. Like surgeons make good money. They help people. The job's fucking hard as shit. Long education, long hours, and you're exhausted. And also just like the mental guilt. Like if you're fucking making $500K a year, but you just didn't save somebody in surgery and they're dead. Like that fucking, like every job has downside.
You know what's harder than actually deciding to get a job? Finding one that hires you. I swear you could send 100 applications to 100 different places and all of them would still ghost you. You think with how many job openings you see, the businesses are desperate to find people. But nah, it feels like they're posting it as bait just to mess with people or steal your info. Not only that, if this is your first job, you're gonna have a harder time because even the quote-unquote entry-level jobs are asking for a qualification of having prior experience. Like, isn't that what this job is for?
I think a lot of them list that, but in my experience when I was applying is they'll still accept you if they need the job. It's how bad they need an employee. If no one's applying and you apply and you could get away without having the full requirements. But if they have 100 people applying for one job position, they're going to pick the best person. So if they know that they're going to get a lot of job applications, they'll up the requirements. So then less people will apply and they'll just get better candidates. Versus if it's bare minimum, then 150 people apply and they have to weed through those. Versus going, hey, we need a bachelor's degree to work a fucking minimum wage job. They're going to get 5 applications. They just pick one guy.
Supposed to get experience and not be homeless while almost every decent paying job requires that. And trying to apply for a job on LinkedIn or Indeed is like sending your application into a void. I swear none of those people be reading them. You could have the most stacked profile on LinkedIn. You got a bachelor's, master's, discovered the cure for cancer. Then you send in an application for your dream job to your dream company. Then they write back to you saying, we've read your application. Unfortunately, the CEO's daughter has took your position that you applied for, so get the fuck on. Back when I was still
Yeah, I mean, connections, I always say this, connections is everything. Connections is it's gonna make or break whether or not you get a job as well, and that rules out experience. Experience matters more than a lot, but connections trumps that. If you have a job position that's open, but it's like the daughter or son or cousin of somebody that's already in the field and they can get a recommendation, you're fucked. You're not getting the job. Yeah, nepotism for sure. I think it's different, nepotism versus like just like a nepo baby in general that's just getting everything handed to them. But it is also just like, why wouldn't you do that? You know, you're gonna help out your family. If you were in that position where you could get your son a job, Fuck the other guy. I don't know this random guy named John that needs a fucking job real bad. I'm going to get my kid a job versus them. So you're always going to put your family first or friends first in that aspect.
Applying for jobs, I literally gave up on sending applications on those sites because I never get a response back. Like, damn, was my application that bad? Even when your application does get noticed and you get set up for an interview, you still got to go through some more bullshit-ass questions. Why did you choose our business? Y'all hiring. Like, what's up?
Yeah, you got to glaze the fuck out of it. I think the weirdest thing is when jobs require a bachelor's degree, but any bachelor's degree. It's just fucking weird. Like, there's so many jobs that are like, hey, you need a 4-year degree. Doesn't matter in what. Oh, so you'd hire a guy that had a 4-year degree in communications, fucking biology, chemistry, physics, philosophy, fucking anything. What the fuck? So it's just like, oh, you have to be smart enough to get through college. That's really what they're telling you. You need a degree. Shows hard work and persistence. It doesn't, though. It doesn't, though. You know how much? You know the difference between levels of how hard a degree is versus another? I got a BA in philosophy. It's not for everybody, right? But I read and I wrote papers. I could get 2 BAs in philosophy from 2 different universities easier than getting a fucking biochem degree from one university. I could get 2 bachelors from 2 different universities in philosophy easier than I could a fucking biochem degree. For sure. So how are you going to fucking sit here and say, oh, it's just like it shows persistence? I think you could fucking steamroll through certain degrees way easier than others.
Money? What else am I here for? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Hopefully not here. That's just me being honest with my answers. What do you want me to do? Work here for the rest of my life? This is a Wendy's! So you gotta lie with any question they ask. You have to make yourself look as good as possible. So you gotta fake it till you make it. Even if they asked you a stupid question like, would you still work this job even if there was no pay? You say absolutely. I always wanted to be a slave. Congratulations.
Well, one of the biggest things is like job hopping and just getting experience where you can. Like, if you're able to get a job that you know you don't want, but you could hold for a certain period of time so you could put it on your resume for another job in good standing, that helps you out fucking tenfold comparable to somebody else with nothing. Like, sometimes grabbing a job that you don't want and just holding it for a little bit and then dipping is like, hey, I worked here for 6 months. I worked here for a year.
Congratulations, you have successfully become employed. The end of your life starts Tuesday. After starting a job, I feel after the first week, you can find out whether you like it or quit it the next month. And it won't be the job itself to motivate this decision. It's your boss and coworkers.
Jiggle my ball.
What's like the best minimum wage job you could hold? Like some easy shit. I think pushing shopping carts in a very good climate-based area. When I applied to jobs, I wanted to be a cart boy so bad. But like only during like fall, winter. Like if it's like Arizona, oh fuck being a cart kid. Like it's like 110 degrees outside. Discord mod. Stacking shelves. Is stacking shelves a good job? I feel like you're going to get a different answer depending on where they work and who it is. Working at a Publix, Home Depot. Yeah, Home Depot's easy as shit. Yeah, I feel like you don't get many customers at Home Depot too. Like you kind of just bum around. You just kind of stand there. And a lot of the shit's self-checkout too. Full service gas station. Yeah, being a gas clerk in New Jersey is kind of a fire job. But you make more than minimum wage, I think. You just fucking sit there, pump people's gas. Hey, what is it? Filled up regular. Oh, okay, boss. You want the receipt? No? Have a good day. Next. And then you just sit in a box, and it's heated. Heated or cooled. You're just kind of chilling. Working at the movies. I feel like working at the movies right now was like a horrible era. Coming off the Minecraft film? No. Working at the movies would suck, that. that aspect of it. Depends what movies are out. That's what determines how good your job is at a movie theater. What movies are out.
They can make or break this whole thing. If you happen to get a chill boss and coworkers you can vibe with, that's amazing. That's how my last real job was. I used to be a waiter for weddings and other events. That job low-key had me stressing because I wasn't good at the start. I was awkward taking orders. I would mess up orders, and one time
I think being a waiter is one of the worst jobs you could have. Any service job where you're working for tips is terrible. Unless it's, okay, no, you know the best job? Bottle service. Being an attractive bottle service woman at a nightclub, you work shit hours, but if it's a popular nightclub and you just go, oh, it's Ronald's birthday. Here's a $180 bottle of Grey Goose. And then they tip you fucking $50 on that. Like, there's some clubs, like day clubs in AC in New Jersey. And if you're like a bottle girl there, and dude, you might just get somebody that orders like $1,000 of alcohol, and they're gonna put even 10% gratuity. You just bring out bottles of liquor, stand there for 10 minutes. You make $100.
Imagine working a 16-hour shift and walking out of it happy. One day I clocked in for a double shift for a wedding and a sweet 16 at 9:30 a.m. and clocking out at 1:30 a.m. Granted, I was dead after that shift and had to take off my shoes more than once, but I got $60 worth of tips and went to Wawa after work, so I felt like Gucci.
Oh, Wawa. Got that fucking quarter-pound hot dog and a Slurpee.
And I believe I only felt like this because the environment I was around was nice. Sometimes. I've had to serve some aggressive people at some points.
Yeah, it's my birthday today. What can I get out here for free? You a bitch.
If I had trash co-workers or a trash boss, I would have not stayed at that job for long. I have zero patience for bullshit. Literally. Like example, the first job I've ever had in my senior year of high school, I was a janitor at a warehouse. I had no co-workers.
A janitor at a warehouse. How did he land that job? I feel like most high schoolers either do service jobs or work at retail. That's like 99% of high school jobs is working at like grocery stores, fast food, or restaurants.
So I had nobody to talk to, and my boss was not a bad
being like a dishwasher.
person, but a bad.
I don't know. Is being a dishwasher a bad job? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know in the restaurant business what would be the worst though. Being a cook in certain, I think the benefit of being like some jobs that are mentally stimulating are better than ones that are boring. Would you rather have a job? Here's a question for chat. Would you rather have a job that is like boring, where you do absolutely nothing, but you get paid, you know, the same amount as another job where you're like constantly working, but it goes by quicker? Yeah, I think that I would rather have the mentally stimulating one where I'm just constantly doing shit for like 7 hours a day. Because then at least, you know, you're living. Even if like you're like kind of in a woo way state where you're just kind of mindlessly working, you know, or like effortless effort, as they would say, I think that's better than just like I know I always relate this back to GNC. When I would work at GNC, I would do an 8-hour shift and sit there for 6 hours and no one would come in. No one would come in. And I would have other jobs where I'd have to clean shelves, stock things, keep inventory. But like I would get that done in an hour. And then I would just sit there. And I'd just go. And you weren't allowed to like chill on your phone. So I would just stand there. Like literally a Sims character. Just like. Just waiting. Just wandering the store. Just NPC pacing in like a fucking set path.
I'd be working shifts that were 2 to 3 hours every few days, cleaning the break rooms, hallways, and bathrooms. So my pay wasn't even that good, but since I was still in school, I was just thinking I'm making money and I got more time to study and goon. That sounds like a win-win. But when payday arrived, I would only be paid for half the hours I worked, sometimes less. I was already barely working as is, combined with a salary of $13 an hour, cleaning up pee-pee and poo-poo. Man, I'm not taking that. Plus, he only paid me.
This motherfucker definitely lives in New Jersey. Degenerosity mentioning Wawa and 13 an hour when he was in high school? Surely. Wawa 13 an hour?
Through Cash App. You've ever had a job that only paid you through Cash App? Man, I had to go.
Okay, no, that has to be illegal. Your job paid you in Cash App. You weren't even on their books, bro. He didn't even fill out a tax form. That motherfucker was getting paid under the table.
I only worked there for a few weeks. He did pay me the rest of the money after, so he cool, but man, warehouse jobs are not it. My patience dwindled faster when I got accepted at BJ's, and I worked there for 1 day. I asked to go to the bathroom and left during orientation. I discovered they weren't what they
left during orientation. No fucking way. Bro, what? Yo, can I go to the bathroom? You leave mid... Bro, you had a shift. You just dipped during the fucking, like, teaching day?
But how you gonna call yourselves BJs without expecting people to have certain expectations? That's false advertising. So I left. That wasn't really the reason. I just didn't want to work in the freezer. That's when I started my waiting job, then YouTube, and now here I am. Unemployed since. I'm just saying I can understand the struggles of looking for and having a job. Man. Especially the ones you only take to make ends meet. And the unemployed life can be really fun when you have stuff to fall back on. If not, it will only be short-term satisfaction. Eventually.
Bro, I also think that you could solve a lot of the, like, unrest in the job market in the US by just cutting some of the work time. Like, no, there's never going to be a world where everybody's going to be happy working their job, but you could get through, like, a 30-hour work week. Like, the average person would be much less unhappy if they worked 6 hours a day, 5 days a week versus 8 or 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Like, that's how, like, a lot of European countries do that. If you were to work, like, 9 to 3, that's not that bad. Like, 9 to 3, and then you have the rest of the day off, and you're getting paid the same amount. The problem is that's never going to happen because they're not going to up your wages, and then they're never going to do that. You would just make less money. Yeah, they would never do that for us, though. Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, that wouldn't happen. But dude, it's so weird that we still live in the 8-hour workday space. Because do you know how that originated? By the way, the 8-hour workday. We talked about that, but this has been a while. The 8-hour shift started during like the Industrial Revolution when like Henry Ford wanted to. Yeah, Henry Ford they wanted to have 8, 8, and 8. 8 hours rest, 8 hours work, 8 hours like relaxation, right? Or like rec time, where you would do whatever. You would split your day in three points, where you'd sleep for 8, you would work for 8, you had eight off. And it's crazy we're still advancing technologically and societally, but we're still in the industrial level workday. And I think a lot of countries are out of that, but the US I think will remain that way forever. What do you think is the easiest job? I don't know. A lot of people are going to say streaming. I don't think streaming is the easiest job. I think streaming is one of the best jobs. I don't think that my job is by any means harder than a 9-to-5, though. I think that is crack shit when people say that. You want the easiest job? TikToker. More than streamer. I think being one of the people on TikTok that make 4 TikToks a day and do dance, like Charlie D'Amelio, was an easy job. She got a lot of hate. I think you don't recognize the downsides of the job that come alongside it. The work for her was high because she was one of the biggest TikTokers, so she had a lot of ad stuff. But like if you're like somebody on TikTok that makes like 4 videos a day, or you're like a clipper on TikTok and you make a full-time salary clipping content on TikTok, that's the easiest job in the world. You're not even making original content. You clip other people's content, make money off of it, give publicity to the person so they don't even care, and then you're making fucking $10,000 a month doing that. OnlyFans content? Yeah, but OnlyFans content's easy, but you also yeah, you have to have the body for it. You have to stomach all the weirdos, and you're going to have stalkers, right? So you have to recognize, if you're going just for surface value, what's the easiest job? Yeah, TikToker, OnlyFans, shit like that. Like food tasting. But if you're going like and adding up the downsides of like weirdos and shit, then you get into like a bigger debate.
You have to get a career, deal with any of the shortcomings of it, and do that for the rest of your life. The American...
Actually, no. I wouldn't even say easiest. Like, if you're going easiest job, you're going like something that is a minimum wage job that you do nothing. It just sucks because you work long hours and get paid shit. Like, those jobs aren't necessarily, like, not every minimum wage job. I'm saying certain jobs are easy. They just suck because you get paid nothing. They're boring and you work 10 hours a day. So, I mean, have that argument of what's the easiest job is hard.
Dream. So when looking for a job, make sure to get one that you like if you have the privilege to do so. That's all I really wanted to say. And in conclusion, enjoy unemployment while you still can. Different stroke.
That was a really good video. I passed out 14 different times during this video. Please refrain from the use of profanity in the next one. I think out of social media jobs, Snapchat's the easiest. What David Dobrik does, that's the easiest social media job. End of story. End of conversation. That's the easiest job. Just post 80 different fucking pictures on Snapchat and then post a clickbait of a woman in a mirror doing this. And then that'll be the thumbnail, and then you're going to have a bunch of gooners that go and spam through 10 different ads, and then you get paid. And so that's how, like, Bryce Hall, David Dobrik, and all those guys make money. is they just fucking spam post on Snapchat, and it makes a bag. It makes a bag. So, like, those content guys make a lot. I think that's easiest in the content realm. Maybe Instagram, if you're like an Instagram model, but you have to upkeep your body, obviously, and the way you look, which is stressful. Then TikTok. I think one of the worst social media jobs, or hardest, God, I'm going to sound like such an ass saying this, streaming. I think streaming, because streaming, you still have active hours. YouTube, you pick. It's not, I'm not saying streaming's hard, by the way. I need to preface that. Streaming is not, I'm not saying this is a hard job. I'm not saying this is a tough job by any means. I'm saying out of social media, just influencer jobs, I think streaming is the longest hourly, and then YouTube content. But it depends on the YouTuber. Streaming and YouTubers, it's the longest hours. Like XQC will stream like 15 hours a day. But I'm just comparing to content. I still think my job's easier than any 9 to 5. Genuinely. I think my job's easier and better than any 9 to 5. But I think if you're going on the streaming, or if you're going like streaming versus Snapchat versus like guys that just retweet and rip Twitter posts, like that's like easier work, you know? All right, next video.